the key to unlocking your potential isn't just grit, but momentum, mindfulness, and shifting your mindset? In this week's episode of Keys to the Future, my guest, a Fortune 50 leader turned transformational coach, joins us to explore how we can put our might in motion and lead with intention, energy, and purpose. Welcome to Keys to the Future. I'm your host, Gabby Coe. I've enjoyed a successful engineering career, and I'm passionate about empowering the next generation of STEM leaders. Together, we'll dive into the journeys of trailblazers who are changing the world and uncover the insights that will help you unlock the future you're meant to create. Let's get started. I am happy to introduce my guest, a dynamic leadership coach, podcast host, author, and founder of Might in Motion. With over 20 years of experience in a Fortune 50 company, she brings powerful insights into motivation, momentum, mindfulness, and personal growth. Through her podcast, book, and events, she's helping professionals tap into their inner strength and lead with purpose. She holds a degree in industrial engineering from the Georgia Institute of Technology. Please welcome Marianna Kinnee. Marianna, thank you so much for sharing your journey with the Keys to the Future community.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So I'm eager to learn more about your transition from over 2 decades in leadership at a Fortune 50 company to founding Might in Motion. What inspired you to create Might in Motion, and how does it reflect your personal journey?
Thank you so much for asking me that question because I founded it actually well before I left the Fortune 50 space. And the reason why was I was looking for a way to share information to a broader group. You've been in the industry. I'm in the supply chain space for as long as I had been, almost 25 years. People were always asking, hey, can I get time with you? Can you go grab coffee? All this fun stuff, which is great. But I wanted to build more of a legacy, a way to actually share information beyond just that small circle of people that you interact with on a daily basis. And so I realized I needed to make my own stage, if you will. And that's why I stepped into the podcasting space. And I started by interviewing people that I just wanted to learn from, people that inspired me. And then that just grew and grew and grew. And now we're 4 seasons in, and I'm so excited that you're a guest on season 4. It's just been really great to continue to kind of expand that. So you and I would have never have met had it not been for podcasting and one connection leading to another connection leading to another, right? And so now those leaders that are out there in industry, either in supply chain or technology or wherever they're at from a STEM space, have another resource that they can go to and learn from individuals like you to be able to share your story, and they can hopefully glean something from that and say, oh, that's somebody else I want to emulate, I want to learn from, and be kind of mentored or fed into by. And that's what's so amazing about the podcasting space is you can do that. And then through that, I decided, well, I might as well put pen to paper and put together a small book, and wanted to be one of the 1% that actually said they could write a book. And it's more of like a guide, a workbook that you can actually pick up, open, and read a very short chapter. And at the end, there's a challenge, and it falls into like the 4 categories of motivation, momentum, mindfulness, and might. And for me, I always liked a good challenge. Right now, I'm doing a personal health challenge, and it's like having that goal, that end post, is really key. So I thought just putting together these little individual challenges that anybody can open up. It's a quick read, and you can go and do any one that falls into one of those categories where you might feel like you need some additional support.
Fascinating, fantastic. I mean, I agree with you that your knowledge sharing is so essential just to grow and learn from others' lessons learned and not have to reinvent the wheel. So it's really fascinating that there's this technology now that allows us to do this, share our knowledge, share where we've been, share our lessons learned, and help others kind of find their path, if you will. So I'm really curious. Might in Motion is based on the 4 M's, like you just mentioned: motivation, momentum, mindfulness, and might. Can you explain these and how they guide your work?
So motivation, everybody has something that's core within them that's driving them. And it's figuring out what it is. And usually it's, you ask those whys. Well, why is such and such important to you? Well, why, and then why, and then why again, right? It's typical engineering think, right?
Right.
And so for me, my motivation has been around legacy building. That could be with my own family, with my two girls. It could be with my teams, and hopefully they can go and drive change for the next, generation, et cetera, et cetera. So figuring out what your motivation is key. And then you've got to have momentum towards whatever your goals are. It really goes back to engineering again, where having measurable results is pretty helpful. If you know where you're starting and you know where you would like to go, then you can start building a path to get there, or you can figure out, oh, do I need to reset? Do I need to kind of adjust which way I'm going? Or has something changed in this experiment called life, right? That I need to go and, oh, maybe my variables are different. Let's go assess that. And so that's your momentum. Your mindfulness, there's this, inner voice that we all have, a spiritual side. I am a woman of faith. So I know there is a higher power, right? But everybody has something where they have to get their mind right. And so that's that piece of making sure that you're mindful in the moment, that right now it's you and I. It's not, oh, what's going on over here? It's not, 15 million things. It's not the kids in the other room because it's still summer break. It's like, how do I stay mindful in this moment? And then might is the physical side. And so for me, that's, if you're wanting to have the other three, they're all four kind of like legs of a stool, right? You can have one of them be a little bit shorter than the other, but once they all start getting out of alignment, your seat at the table is very unstable. And so that physical piece is a strong piece of that. Does that mean that you go for a walk every day? Does it mean you do yoga a few days a week? It's just, how do you physically make sure you're doing things that you're pouring into that part of your being? It's summertime, so we're making homemade ice cream. So it doesn't mean like, hey, you're not gonna have ice cream every once in a while. It just means that you're doing things holistically to really help your whole being, not just one piece.
Absolutely. I love that. The four M's: motivation is the why. Why are you doing it? What motivates you to go and get up every morning to do that thing, to succeed or take the next step to your goals or so on. And then you said momentum is towards your goals. And if you don't have any goals, you kind of lack that roadmap, if you will. And, I tell people goals can be set, but it doesn't mean that it's end all be all. And I think it means to me, if you set up a goals, is that you've done your homework. Where do you see yourself down the road, or what inspires you to continue on and do that thing that you want to be doing? And then you said mindfulness, because that inner voice keeps guiding us to that thing, to that why. And lastly, you said the might is the physical part that makes it all whole. Like I love that thought process. So is Mind in Motion, it's, as you mentioned before, it's a company, a podcast, a book. Can you share what inspired that evolution?
Being at a Fortune 50 company for 22 years, I had mentors along the way, and everybody should. But I got to a certain point where I needed guidance outside of the company I was with. And so I actually joined a networking group that was a slash mentoring group. And it was great because it really challenged me in a way that I hadn't been challenged before. I was now surrounded by a lot of entrepreneurs, which is phenomenal because it challenged the way I thought about things. And I went to an in-person event, and at this in-person event, it was really all about, they had speakers, and you kind of walk away, you're all rah rah rah, you're excited because you went to this in-person event, and everybody's charged up and they're there for a reason. And the head guy brought on 5 people to speak on stage that were from this mentor group for about 5 minutes each to tell their story, their message. And a lot of the messages were, maybe they had experienced personal trauma, and there was like kind of this overcoming people. I was like kind of the outsider, right? Because I'm this corporate America person. Oh, I don't really have like a trauma that I'm overcoming, that sort of thing. But I knew there were just so many individuals that had gone through what I had gone through in corporate America, of maybe feeling, maybe a little bit lost, maybe wanting more feedback, more of that constructive feedback of, hey, this is what you need to do to move to the next level. Or, you know what, maybe you're not going to move to the next level. You should go take a lateral because you're missing a skill set.
Mm.
And so, I kind of walked away going like, how do I share that? How do I get on the stage next year? And then I realized, I was on LinkedIn. I think any good corporate America person should be on LinkedIn on the regular. There's so much you can learn education wise, connection wise. If you're in a specific industry, there's so many industry specific groups. And so I was on LinkedIn, and Gary Vee went live. And that was the first time I saw anybody go live on LinkedIn. And it blew my mind. I was like, wait, you could do that? Like, I knew you could do it on TikTok and Instagram and all these other things, but I never knew you could do that on LinkedIn. And I was like, well, let's just do it. I'm going to pull the trigger. I'm not going to wait on somebody else's stage. I'm just going to build my own and start sharing this message. And so that's kind of how that propelled that into being. And it's kind of stayed. And really my focus over the past few years has really been the podcast because of how much fun I have doing
Yes.
it. I didn't realize how much I enjoyed connecting, but it also like opened my eyes too, where I realized, hey, maybe it's time for me to leave corporate America. Maybe it's time for me to go do something that's really outside of my comfort zone. I mean, I'd spent 22 years with one organization, so everybody was literally 1 to 2 degrees separated from me. You either worked with, worked for, worked adjacent to so many different people that, which is great because you always kind of knew who you needed to call. But I felt this calling to be challenged. And, I didn't want to necessarily like go straight into entrepreneurship and all this. And I made this big pivot where I left corporate America and I went to a tech startup. And so I've been at the tech startup almost a year now. So you go from a Fortune 50 to a company of 40, big change, big change. And I am not like a coder. I'm not, a computer engineer. I'm not a data scientist. I'm an industrial engineer. I love good process. Like a good process makes me happy. Organization makes me happy. Good SOP makes me happy. And I love like transportation. I love trucking. I love, ocean shipments. I love all that. Like I love how the concept of how freight moves because it's all a process. And so being able to take that operational knowledge, that corporate knowledge, and now go into this startup space and being able to layer in that mentality of might and motion with those 4 M's in this new organization has been really, really fun and challenging because you're going into kind of the true wild, wild west. And I don't know if I could have done that if I hadn't several years ago started setting the stage of it's okay to be risky. It's okay to put your name and your face out there. It's okay to tell a story. It's okay to bring others and give others a platform to tell their story and to not be afraid of, well, what might somebody say? What might somebody's opinion be? Because that doesn't matter. But what mattered is more of like, am I growing? Am I being challenged? Am I setting an example for my kids that you should go and do things that may not feel comfortable? Try out for the team, write your creative story, draw that picture in and put it into a competition, like whatever, right? And so now my 2 girls are asking questions and doing things that when I was their age, I would never have done ever done. Like just like talking about business plans and if we want to open a juice shop and what would that mean? And well, what does inventory mean? And what do you mean I have to go buy cups? Aren't you just going to buy cups? No, mom, I'm not going to buy your cups, right? Like you have to figure out what all these things would cost and what rent is. Do you even have a model that's viable? I never had those conversations at like 9 and 11. And so that to me has been really, really cool is that by layering in the corporate piece, the entrepreneurial spirit of Might and Motion with now a tech startup has just been really, really fun and challenging for me over the past 12 months. I challenge anybody. You're never too old. You're never too stuck in a company or a position to put yourself out there to try something new.
Absolutely. I think, that's what keeps you thriving, right? Having that continuous learning mindset. Just like you said, I've considered myself to be an introvert all of my life. If you would have told me 5 years ago, I would be doing a podcast. I was like, nope, not me.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think, like just like you, I enjoy doing it. It's kind of like my creative space, which I've discovered about myself. And it has given me kind of like opened the door for me to just say, hey, put it out there. You have all this knowledge that you've accumulated over your career, share it with others. And I think that's what's important. And it gives you growth, so much growth, because you learn so much about yourself when you take that risk, when you take that step and keep your mind fresh to new ideas.
Yeah. I mean, you said a really key word. I think it was that creative aspect. And sometimes I think people think that engineers aren't creative,
Yes,
but we really are.
we are.
We're just in a different way. And, like I've seen that with some of the computer engineers that I'm working with now and how they come up with these ideas and solutions. I wouldn't even know where to begin, right? But they're able to do things that I couldn't do, and vice versa. Like I do things that they may not be their first inclination, but that creative piece in the STEM space is so fun. And I think when people are thinking about should they go into engineering, and I think it's going to be very like you're in this box and you never leave this box. I'd say the most successful ones are actually willing to think creatively, and they're able to look at a situation. Maybe it's in a production facility or whatever, and they're able to look at things and see things that nobody else can see because of that creative nature.
Absolutely. And I think, just like you said, engineers, people don't typically think are creative, but engineers are creative. Just like you said, they come up with solutions for tough problems. That's
Every day.
creativity, maybe more structured creativity than what we think about, but still, it is creativity.
Hmm. Hmm. Which is that's what I think is amazing. It's as I look back on my career, I've spent time in so many different environments. Everything from like manufacturing of paper and other things, the trucking space, inventory buying, now tech startup, all these different areas, ocean freight, you know, LTL, truckload, all the things. And what's fun is that you can actually find commonality along that path that you can bring to your next role. So like many times when I'm talking to individuals or mentoring folks and they're like, I'm not sure, I don't meet 100% of the boxes, right? You don't have to meet 100% of the boxes, like meet 80 and then be able to talk how your background actually makes you even more successful and what new things you're bringing to the table that is different and above the 20% that you think you don't have.
Absolutely. That diversity of skill sets, too, is very important.
Hmm.
And some people think, well, I can't really apply for that job because like you said, I don't meet the 20%. Well, if you met 100%, then why apply for that job? Right?
Right? You'd already be in it.
Exactly. I mean, that's kind of like my mindset. You don't have to check all the boxes to apply for the next step, for the next job, or the next, set of challenges that are going to get you to the next level. But you also host events like Motion Unleashed.
Yeah.
What can attendees expect from these events, and how do they complement your podcast and book?
I did the first one last year. We're still planning this year's, but it was so much fun. It was basically like taking the podcast but making it in real time. And
Hmm.
so we had four, four or five, no, four guest speakers. It was so much fun to be able to bring in these guest speakers, and we did it all virtually, which was also, kind of a challenge, but also fun too, because it didn't matter, that one might be out in California and the other one might be, in Toronto and the other one might be in Atlanta, Georgia, because we could all get on the same page at the same time. And what we did was they each had a segment that they spoke or taught, went through, what their portion of the topic was. So there was, a marketer that talked a lot about like your self marketing, not necessarily like if you own a company and how you market it, but you yourself, you have to be able to market yourself to your boss, to your peers. If you're coming up and you're kind of presenting a project or solution, you've got to be able to have that marketing skill, right? Of presenting yourself. And so she talked a lot about that. We, another one that talked a lot more about, your kind of spiritual mindset and, how do you go and you find, peace or find balance between like your masculine and your feminine, because a lot of the guests were were women, so that kind of aligned very well with like who the guests were. And so it was just really really cool to bring these different women to the table and have them share their story in real time, have the audience be able to ask questions in real time. So when you do a podcast, it's not always, it's a two-way street between me and you, but
Right.
not necessarily a two-way street with the audience unless they did, decide to send you a question on the side. And so that was so cool to have it be interactive, where people could actually submit their questions in real time, get answers. The speaker could feed off of that, right? Oh, okay, I see where that question's going. Let's guide the conversation, let's guide the presentation in that way. And then after the event ended, we did for the VIP guests, we basically had like a happy hour, and it was just like, hey, let's get together. And all of the speakers are there together and all the VIP guests were there together, and we could collaborate and talk and get to know each other, in a different way. And it's all about that connectivity, like I mentioned earlier, which I think was really, really cool, that taking the connectivity of a podcast where it's one-on-one and now making it like one to many was really, really fun. And I hope to do another one again soon.
That sounds amazing because, it helps you build that community, even a larger community of
Right.
people and resources that you can tap into just to get an opinion. Because sometimes you need to talk through things with
Yeah.
somebody, right? To like understand the challenge and understand how you may move forward. And you may be in that moment not really clear in your head, but having that opinion or that person outside of your own little inner voice that's saying, no, you can't, you mustn't, you shouldn't, to inspire you to go on.
Yeah. I was listening to another podcast because I love my
Yeah.
podcast, and they were talking about AI and how there's groups of people that start thinking of AI as being like this sentient being, a godlike being, their best friend that they type in or they talk to, and they're getting a response back. It's just code, right? That's responding, reflecting back
Right.
to you. But I think it shows that us as humans need this. We
Yes.
need the ability to talk to somebody and be heard and have like what we're saying kind of reflected back. And I just rather do it with a real person.
Yeah, right. I think, yeah, absolutely. Humans, we crave a connection with other humans, and that feedback, that being able to soundboard with others is so important, I think. And you can do that by building community around you. It doesn't necessarily mean like right immediately around you physically, but you can tap into that network of people or professionals out there that can share their journeys and then just learn from them.
Many people are still kind of in a virtual space. The company I'm with now, 100% remote. And so I purposely set up time with my team, not just for regular team meetings, but also a team brunch because we're in so many different time zones. I was like, I don't know what else to call it. We're going to call it brunch. Some people are having breakfast, some people are having lunch, some people might be having mimosas in the middle. I don't know. But we just get together to talk about life, and because you don't get that. You don't get the water cooler time, right? Or the break room time if you're not physically in person. And then, 1 to 2 times a year, I work to bring my entire team together physically and say, let's get together for a few days, in like, one of the big cities, and we're going to talk strategy. We're going to talk projects. We're going to go walk customers, but we're also going to spend time in fellowship. Like we're going to go have dinner together. We're going to go
Yep.
play games together. We're going to do whatever, right? Because that bring you now you have a common memory. You have something that binds you with these other individuals. They aren't just, a blank screen that you don't have the camera on, right? Or
Yeah.
something that you're typing to in Slack. They're a real person with real emotions. And now all of a sudden you're more likely to step in and help them. And they're going to be more likely to step in and help you when you need it. So
Absolutely.
that sense of community, I think everybody should lean into. And if you're a new leader, like that's one of the hardest things to learn. How do you build community with your team? And just being vulnerable and willing to set up that time and being willing to listen to people and learn their story and learn their origin and what motivates them, that's going to take you a whole heck of a lot further in your career than necessarily just beating people over the head to hit numbers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. Burnout is a common issue among professionals. What strategies do you recommend for maintaining that balance and preventing that burnout?
Yeah, sometimes I'm good at it, sometimes I'm not.
I think we all are in that category.
It just kind of depends. Yeah, but I think it's kind of, like if you're in a relationship, boundaries are important. I think that's the same thing in all aspects of your life. You need to have boundaries around, your work. You need to have boundaries around your extracurricular things that you do, right? And that I think helps you find equilibrium. I don't like the whole concept of like work-life balance because that kind of indicates that why aren't you able to find that perfect balance? Like there's something
Mm-hmm.
wrong with you. No, it's like work life integration. How do
Hmm.
you like figure out a way? Because when you're at work, you should really be focused on work. When you are at home with your family, you really should try to be focused at home on your family. Just like we were talking earlier, like there's distractions. Try to like eliminate those distractions. So for me, from a burnout perspective, like understanding what your goals are is really important. And like, at work, that might be quarterly work goals. In your personal life, it might be specific health goals. In your family life, it's family goals. That might mean things like, hey, I want to have a date night with my husband, at least once a month with no kids, and we're going to go on an actual real date. It could mean things like, we need to have a family game night, or I'm going to actually put time on my calendar to play and be like, hey, no, me interacting with my kids isn't always about, did you clean your room? And have you done your homework? And did you clean
Yeah.
the dishes? but are we playing? Are we spending some time doing that kind of stuff? And I think when you figure out what those key things are for you, because it's different for everybody, that you actually do it. And when you do it, you will find that you don't get burned out as much. And then you also need to know what your own kind of warning signs are on when you're approaching burnout. Like for me, it's like a sense of anxiousness where it's like I start saying, "Oh, I can't do it all. I don't have time to do it all. I don't have time to do it all." Like that goes on repeat, right, in my brain. When I start hearing that, it's like, okay, what can I control? What can I delegate? Because I don't have to do it all. Why do I think I have to do it all? And once again, this is where I fail sometimes. Just ask my husband, right? But like being able to have those moments where you can reflect and say, okay, this is where I need to do things, and then help others see that. So as a leader, if you've got people on your team and you start seeing them burn out, you should have the strength to be able to actually say, you need to take a day off.
Right.
You need to take that vacation. You need that. Like, I mean, I've literally had people that are afraid to say, "Oh, I'm not going to be on that meeting because I'm on vacation." Why? You
Yes.
earned it, right? You calling in from the beach is not going to help the project because you're
Right.
not really engaged. Like,
Exactly.
go do you so that when you come back, you are more than where you are right now. And so I think being able to tune into others as well and help them is going to allow you to be more enabled to go take care of yourself too. Like I have on my monthly notes to be like, I need to schedule a quiet day. And a quiet day is like I did this last year for the first time. It was one of those things that terrified me, but I went on a silent retreat for a day. No technology, nobody talked. Like you showed up, there was like a little intro conversation, and then everybody was silent for like 8 hours. So you ate lunch in silence. You did all the whole day. It was terrifying because you're so tethered
Yes.
all the time. But what I found was like, man, I had some real aha moments, some real introspective moments of, oh, these are things I should be thinking about or working on or be more present in. It was phenomenal. So now, like, I have it on my list of this is something I want to do in the back half of this year is I want to go have another silent day. But I have to
I
be
love that.
purposeful in that. You have to
Yeah.
plan it.
Right. I love that because I mean, you should make it as part of your time management skills,
Yeah.
right? Schedule it in so that you don't make excuses to postpone it or delay it or whatever. So you're taking care of yourself. And by taking care of yourself, you're also taking care of so many others. Not only because you could be helping them, but you're kind of setting the tone and you're setting the example.
Right. Right. Like even like for me, I remember having bosses that would every weekend, Saturday morning, I'd wake up and I'd look at my BlackBerry. That's going to age me right there. But I'd look at my BlackBerry and I would be like, oh no, like I'd start crying. I'm like, "Ugh, there's just that he's on fire. Like, okay, I guess I need to like, work for another 5 hours today. And then
Right.
I realized like, wait a minute, what what can I do today that was actually going to help a store associate that day or the next day, like that Saturday or Sunday, make a sale because I was working for a retailer. And when I use that lens to filter these Saturday emails, and I was like, if it does not impact a store's associate's ability to sell, which at the end of the day pays my salary, it can wait till Monday. And what magically happened was I stopped getting emails on the weekend because he knew I only really need to reach out to her if this is something that is critical. It wasn't a like, or if he might just be clearing his inbox. And so if I answered, I was going to get a follow up, which is going to end up being this back and forth conversation that nobody wants to have on a Saturday morning. But that would have stopped if I hadn't figured out what lens should I view this through. And I think doing things like that is really helpful. There's this really cool feature on most emails where you can delay sending. So if you are that person where in the middle of the night you love catching up on emails, don't destroy your team, right? By having their phone blow up with a bunch of emails, right? You can actually schedule them to deliver at certain times, like the next morning, and things like that. I think help create balance for your whole team.
So, what advice would you give to someone looking to ignite their own might in motion?
It all starts with what's your why, and I think spending time reflecting on that, reflecting on what really excites you, what really drives you, that's going to set the stage for everything else. That's going to set the stage for, what your next career move might be. Like, what should you go after that actually is going to continue to excite you? It might change the trajectory of maybe where you live, or what you like to do for fun, to try something new. So I think that's the key, is really spending some time reflecting on what really drives you. That's going to be the thing that everything else will fall in line. Because if you know what drives you, for me, it was trying to build a legacy for my kids, a legacy for others around me. That one key word became like, that's my standard that I'm going to go after. And everything else, what I invest my time in, how I spend my money, etc., is all really about that. And that I know that I'm doing something that's exciting for me. And so I'd say that's kind of one of the big things, just to start with, just figuring out what truly is your why.
Marianna, thank you so much for sharing your journey with the Keys to the Future community.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a joy.
And that's a wrap for today's episode. Stay ahead in your STEM journey. Follow Keys to the Future on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcast, as well as Instagram and Facebook for the latest insights, tips, and inspiration to help you thrive in your career.